Welcome to Screenblend, episode 9. Today we're going to be talking about superheroes. We're going to talk about low-budget superheroes, and there's also lots of superhero news. And
Jack, can I just jump straight in?
Oh.
Aren't we at episode 10?
Oh, fuck, are we? Oh, shit,
Yeah,
it is
we are at episode
isn't
10.
it? Jeez, all right, we'll start
Okay,
again.
no, keep it going. That's the banter. Jack,
No,
we're at
it
episode
starts.
10.
Shit.
I'm keeping that in. And you and I are both just laughing here. Jack, you got to know what episode we're at. I was about to do something special for episode 10.
Oh, sorry, mate.
A little something special. We've hit 10 episodes, and it's a beauty now.
Feel free to do that in post.
It's too good, mate. That's the beauty of the podcast. And next time we probably should do a little bit more research. But we've hit episode 10, guys. Thank you for all listening so far to these first 9 episodes, and today the 10th episode. You can follow us at _blend on all platforms. And also, if you've got any questions for us, we haven't really pushed questions, Jack. They can email us at screenblend2019@gmail.com and send any questions and any topics you'd like us to talk about, because you're the listeners and the viewers are the most important people. So if you want to hear us or watch us discuss something, chuck it through and we'll have a chat there. But there's some really interesting news, and obviously Jack stuffed up the intro, forgetting which episode it was. How many coffees have you had this morning, Mace?
Oh, I'm only a quarter way through my first one. So
yeah, see, that's the problem. You haven't got up enough. You haven't prepared enough for the podcast.
No, I'll get into it. Give me a break.
No. I'll take the lead at the start, because I've already gone for a walk this morning. Had a nice little apple and walnut muffin, also to get me going. Nice little coffee. So, but I can see right here from my view that there is some serious rain coming, I reckon, just across the horizon. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a disastrous day. I think it's drizzling a little bit, so hopefully everyone's audio is good and everyone's safe at this time. But there's some big news today, Mason. We'll start with the biggest stuff, and I'm thinking I might make the title of this episode the most clickbaity thing in the world. But finally, #release the Snyder Cut is coming. What's your immediate thoughts on this one, Mace? After we obviously spoke about the DC EU in episodes 8 and 9, so go back and give those a listen at Screenblend. But yeah, Mace, what's your immediate thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's huge news. So this was announced last night during a screening of Man of Steel with Henry Cavill and Snyder himself and his wife. And at the end of the screening, they were like, big news, we're releasing the Justice League cut, my cut. And so fans are excited. I'm pretty keen. Whether it will be interesting, because it's been rumored for all these years, and how much footage actually exists, and how much money he's been given by HBO, because this will be premiere starting 2021 on HBO Max. So how much money he's been given for that sponsorship, whether he can actually go back and edit a bit more, add a few more scenes that are needed. But I think this is wonderful news, and I think the DC community is absolutely pumped to see what he's got for his cut.
I think this is, again, obviously we were talking to last week at the start of one of the shows regarding content on these streaming services. And I think a lot of people are now looking at, obviously there's not going to be, everything's shut down now. So a lot of stuff in 2021 that was maybe planned for release has been pushed back. So I could see a HBO and a Warner Brothers right now going, far out, we probably didn't want to do this, but we sort of have to, because we need some content and we need some buzz to get people on our HBO Max subscription services. And for the 20-30 mil that they're rumored to talk about to get this thing finished, they'll probably end up getting at least back in subscriptions when this is released at the start. So a couple of interesting things has come out since. And again, every Tom, Dick and Harry is talking about opinions on this and how it will be released. There's been people saying it may be the original 2-part movie, or they're even talking a 4-part released style show, like hour-long episodes, because as you said, they think there's about 4 hours of content there, and you may be able to get 4 sort of longer form episodes and to string it out a little bit. So instead of doing it like a movie, and they're saying they may bring back the original cast for some scenes, just to tie some connective tissue in there. To
edit Cavill's mustache out for the better.
Well, I think, again, I'd be interested to see how many of those scenes actually just got thrown in again, because once we see this, we'll 100% know, well, that was redone, that was 100% redone, this was 100% redone. So I think it'll be interesting if they can get back the main players. And again, from everyone's social media stuff over the last couple of years, you feel like majority of them will probably come back and help out for a week or two once
Yeah.
productions
Mm.
can come back. And I know, I think we spoke about that last week again, is the UK has sort of put together some stringent laws on sort of film productions coming back, but they know it's important for their industries that they do come back. So how would you like to see this just released as a three-hour movie? Because I'm guessing there'll be 3 hours at least of content. Or would you be interested in seeing like a 2-part show, 4 parts, released weekly
Mm.
for a month, or thrown out all at once and we just get a massive binge watch together?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. But I think HBO, from a money perspective and
Mhm.
financially, I think now you've mentioned it, I think
Yeah,
releasing it in those 2 to 4
that's
parts
it.
across a wide range, of weeks would, keep members subscribed and keep them going over just showing one movie that people can quickly torrent, release onto the internet, and
Yeah,
they've lost their money. At least releasing 4 episodes, people stay tuned in.
yeah,
They'll keep the subscriptions to watch it, throughout these 4 parts.
yeah,
Personally, I would like to see a 2-part movie,
yeah.
get that extra footage, get anything he needs so he can fill in the holes that were, in the original Justice
Yeah,
League, or anything Whedon had originally done. So I would be much rather see a 2-part movie come out of this rather than 4 miniature
yeah,
episodes, so to speak. But I think if I was HBO right now, they're doing pretty well. They bought the
yeah,
Friends special. They're,
yeah,
got quite a good lineup for next year in terms of purchasing certain rights. But yeah, financially, I think releasing it over longer episodes and cutting the movie into a certain amount of parts might actually be the best decision for them.
yeah. I think this is, like we said, we've been speaking about this one for a while, but we all never thought this was going to happen. And this is the beauty of the streaming service in the end, is Warner Brothers and their connection with HBO have allowed this to happen. I think the financials and a lot of the financials for a lot of things at the moment is going to be the interesting part for a lot of these
Mm.
things coming through in the next 12 to 18 months regarding streaming services. So I would love to see a 2-parter, and it might have not been his original Justice League 1 and Justice League 2 sort of
Mm.
vision, but it may be something in the end that resembles something like that at least. And
Mm.
I think it's interesting, and it gives us a bit of hope in this time to see his original vision. It's something that obviously we spoke about in the episode or part 1 of our DCEU sort of chat, and we may, when this obviously comes out in time, have a chat about this closer again, and the longer term vision of what Zack Snyder wanted. But I just think it's interesting that they've come back and they have allowed this to happen. But I think it's a sign of the times
And
in
it's a
life
chance for
now.
him to also kind of reflect back on it, look at the criticisms that came out of the
Yeah,
2017 release, and if he has the time and the money, he can, fix it up a little bit more on top of his original story as well. So
yeah,
he might have that chance as well.
yeah. This could end up being really good. And now, just painting a picture. So say this comes out and this thing's real good. We love, let's say Ben
Real good.
Affleck's. Yeah, but let's just say, because like you've just said, he has the ability to go back and maybe watch that actual Justice League movie that he says he hasn't seen, just to have a look and go, well, this didn't work, and these things didn't work and stuff. Maybe he won't, but what if this Batman's really good? I know Ben Affleck doesn't want to come back, but does this create alternate universes again? Does this create maybe the Flash with their Flashpoint that they're talking about? Does this then push that off to one side and we have multiple Batmans, we have multiple super, like, in a way? Because if this becomes popular,
Mm.
could there be a universe and a time where we actually go, we want to be seeing Ben Affleck's Batman and Sparkly Boy's Batman? What's his name again?
Yeah, no, I know. I don't. Well, I don't think this will impact the universe too much. I think this
Yeah,
is for the fans and for the fans only. To be honest, I think we'll all watch it, but it won't impact the larger DC universe in any way. I'm sure Affleck definitely does not want to come back to that role. He might be happy to come back for a cameo, but he's not going to buff up for it.
no,
He's not going to put in the effort. The money's not there to pay
no,
for a lot of these actors.
yeah,
It's HBO Max.
yeah,
That's television platform. So really, I think they might do little bits and bobs, but I think in terms of changing the whole universe, I think that's out of the question, unfortunately, at this stage.
yeah. I think you're probably there. So sliding across, segueing in keeping our segue of today of superheroes. Ruby Rose. We haven't really spoken too much about Arrowverse yet on this podcast. There's so much to catch up on, and once you miss one episode, you miss two, you miss three, you miss a crossover, you miss all of this stuff.
Seasons,
Yeah,
and then shows altogether.
Yeah, and you know what? You can miss some episodes and it wouldn't matter, and then you miss some really important thing from something. But Ruby Rose has left Batwoman after one season. They just had their season finale last night or the night before, depending on where you are in the world. And I haven't watched much of it at all, to be
Yeah,
perfectly
neither.
honest. But
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting one. They've pardon me. They've just also given us who's playing Bruce Wayne in the show. So how are they going to portray Batman in that? Is he going to come in? Is this a way that they may move it across and get rid of Batwoman or make it more of a Bat family show? Are you interested? Just because this is the first time a major recasting has really happened in the Arrowverse. Any opinions on that, Mace?
Well, Ruby Rose is, very hard to find a replacement. She's quite unique actress,
Yeah.
really. And I saw bits and pieces from her role as Batwoman. She plays it really well. I haven't watched the whole series because I do remember it kind of came out of nowhere. I remember her seeing her being cast, and it went pretty much straight into production.
Yeah.
So whether she actually had too much time to, reflect on this role, and I guess at the end of the day, she's not enjoying it. So, but it will mess, I don't know, with fans, might rub the wrong way getting someone in as a sex, even as a replacement. I mean, if they find another way to replace her character as Batwoman, that might be another story. But yeah, I think a lot of fans will not be happy about this. But if she's not happy, she's not happy.
I think there was a lot of chat at the start of this when she was cast, though, that people weren't happy with the casting. So whether it's sort of a mutual sort of breakup between both parties, that she's looking to do other projects, and I know some people, she'd consider herself, I think, obviously she is a TV star. The majority of her stuff has been TV. She has played roles in a lot of movies also. So unless she's been looking and maybe casting some bigger productions, and we know these 22 to 24 episode shows take up 7 to 8 months of an actor's sort of year to get this stuff out. It's a full, that's your role effectively, and you've got to bounce around on some other things. And especially when you're the lead character in these shows, you're on set every day. There's no way that you might get 1 or 2 days off, but you probably couldn't get too far away from where you're shooting in a season. So I know when you've looked at some of the behind the scenes of the Arrowverse and stuff, it's episodes are shot over 4 days. They get a weekend off, then they're back for the next episode, and they have a little mid-season break. But you're there pretty much the whole time, and it's not like a movie, I guess, in some ways. So maybe she's found something else, and they've worked away that at the end of the first season they can get to a bit of a break. The only other thing we'll have a quick chat about, unless you've got some other news, Jack, is Umbrella Academy Season 2. A teaser was just released now. This is on my show and tell subject that I want to watch at some point. And I remember watching the first episode. I just didn't get into it at a time, and I need to go back on one of these disgusting days here in Adelaide at the moment over winter and just sort of sit down and watch this whole thing, because I've heard great things about it. Where does this sit with you?
Well, going to a superhero-based episode, I'd recommend seeing The Umbrella Academy. It's got the budget for a Netflix film, and all the special effects are really well done. I love the fight scenes. They're actually probably, in terms of television, I think they're some of the better choreographed fight scenes you'll probably see. And they're all done to music, and I think it's just really fun. And it's upbeat, and I love the actors, Ellen Page, and a few, not well-known actors. I also star, but they all do a really good job. And I also like the storyline as well. It's to kind of do with the future, past tense, and somewhat of the apocalypse without giving spoilers. So I know I would be interesting to see where season 2 goes. But I would definitely recommend it for people, who do love the genre.
Sorry to move back to Snyder Cut. I was just scrolling through a little bit of Twitter then too, and people are now saying likely to be a 4-hour cut of the film and split into 6 chapters. So this may come onto your thing too of a longer form, being able to retain subscriptions for a longer time. So maybe 40-minute episodes. And I'm not sure, because we don't get HBO Max, do we, here in Australia?
Foxtel have bought the rights, so it will be on Foxtel.
We will get far out. We'll get Foxtel back. But I think they'll be looking at it as a 6-week sort of thing, I'm guessing, because majority of those have to try your streaming service for a month, and then you just cancel your subscription.
Time it well enough and you'll be fine.
Yeah, people, and likely we only saw 1/4 of what Zack Snyder did, so this will likely be a completely new production. So interesting. The money is
Yeah.
basically spent on VFX and some small shooting. So no, I just thought that's interesting because it sort of confirms what we were saying. And ideas wise, now, Mace, we're sort of discussing today some smaller form after our big last couple of episodes on your big budget superhero movies. Now, sort of looking at the smaller stuff and sort of your just to give you guys a list of what we're sort of bouncing around and going to talk about today is the M. Night Shyamalan Unbreakable,
Shyamalan.
Split and Glass sort of universe, chronicled by Josh Trank, Kick-Ass 1 and 2, Code 8 that was just also released in the last couple of months on Netflix with the Stephen Amell and Robbie Amell cousins, sort of small independent superhero powers sort of movie. And then Push, well back in the day, sort of Chris Evans, prior to everything.
It was in between
There, yeah,
2009, so in between, Fantastic Four and Captain America.
yeah, yeah.
So these are all films that we've chosen and we think that are really, really good and would recommend you to watch. When you have the time, because if you like the superhero genre, these are probably the pretty well-known ones. But at the time of release, a lot of these weren't as well known as they are now. A lot of them have a cult following, so to speak.
Yeah.
More so the M. Night Shyamalan trilogy, I should say. Yeah, it's kind of slowly become bigger.
Where do you want to start with this? Because I know the Unbreakable and that sort of universe of M. Night was over a long period of time. Now, I haven't seen any of these. So for me, this is I'm learning off you today. And what I think is sometimes an interesting thing for our little dynamic here is there's so many things to come out of it, and I can play the listener today a little bit. So do you want to give me a bit of a rundown of how this sort of series came together? Because I know Shyamalan is known for sort of horror and twists, and not my favorite genre of movies. So it's not something that I'd always go and see at the cinema. And maybe this is why sort of your generic, I wouldn't say superhero people or sort of people in that sort of universe would not always go and watch. So where have these sort of come over time, and give us a sort of a rundown?
Well, these films, they're all superhero films. And because they are low budget, they don't have these huge action set pieces that we've known today. So The Unbreakable starred Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson that came out in 2000. So this is before, Spider-Man, which was the first big kind of hit in 2002.
Yeah.
And it was kind of coming after, the Batman films of the 90s, the Tim Burton ones. And they were all, they got pretty goofy towards the end. So this movie is quite grounded. It's quite dark. But it starts, with Bruce Willis on a train. He's not sure where you're not sure where he's going. He's trying to hit up this lady. Doesn't turn out too well. Next scene, son's watching the TV. The train crashes, and Bruce Willis is the sole survivor of the train crash. Yeah. And he's not sure how he survives. He questions that a little bit, but he's just fine. He carries on. But all these people have died. And he meets Samuel Jackson, Mr. Glass, and he is the opposite side of the spectrum. They both have a weakness to water, as they find out throughout the movie. But the movie is mostly about Mr. Glass, Samuel Jackson's character, persuading Bruce Willis that he is not, that he is unbreakable, that he is invincible, that he can survive anything, and he has got this huge amount of strength. But Bruce Willis is pretty much in denial the whole movie, and the movie's pretty much back and forth from him trying to prove that he is this kind of superhero, superhuman being. And no, it's a very good film. No huge budget or anything. There's no huge action set pieces or anything, but it's a really well, character-driven narrative that's got a good few twists at the end as well. So those people who aren't familiar with it, definitely give it a watch. But there's no big super, powers on display.
Yeah.
It just relies on, a good story. It's quite refreshing. It was, refreshing at the time to see a superhero film, of this magnitude back then. A bit more common now. And it kind of ties into, all these characters are original. They're not from comic books, but it does tie itself to comic book material. and those people who do like comic books, can relate back to the characters as well.
So where was this in M. Night's? So I'm just looking now. So Unbreakable was his fourth film he did straight after Sixth
Yeah.
Sense.
One sec, Cuts. I'll be back.
Yeah, go for it, mate. We'll just pause.
Sorry, package for Cassie. Anyway, carry on.
Cool.
Yeah, so...
Ooh, a package. So Jack just had to leave there. So if that's a little cut, someone came to the door to drop off a new package. So, Mace, I was just saying, so this was sort of, Sixth Sense was at the height of M. Night, and his sort of Unbreakable was a bona fide hit, you would have to say.
Yes.
In his world of things. Made a good amount of money. Now, again, he'd been given a $75 million budget on this, so a bit more cash than previously. Obviously, after Sixth Sense did really well for him. Now, we sort of think at this point, again, that this is the end of that series.
Yes, yeah.
So we now move on to, where am I looking now? We get on to Split. So now for Split, for me, and the reason why I never saw this is, for me, this is a horror movie in every way of the production, the advertisements, trailers. Even I'm looking again at the poster. This is a darn horror movie, and I hate horror movies. So can you give me a little bit of a rundown? I understand what the idea of this is, but how does this connect into this universe?
Yeah, so Split, on its time of original release, nobody knew that it was a sequel to Unbreakable. And even watching through it all, it's got original characters, new setting, new plot. Pretty much everything is new. There's only, and also I should mention, Split came out in 2016.
Yeah.
So 16 years after Unbreakable. The only tie-in with actually Unbreakable is an end credit sequence where Bruce Willis is looking up at the crimes of the main character in a small diner. And he's looking into, at the end of Unbreakable, Bruce Willis starts to almost solve crimes similar to a superhero. He gets premonitions from touching certain people, and he can see their future crimes. And so he goes off, towards the end of Unbreakable to go and, solve more crimes and, go out in the public and, prevent deaths, and like a superhero would do. So he sees James McAvoy's character from Split on the TV, and, he wants to go out and find him because, he's committed these crimes. But Split, I wouldn't say it's horror. It is a bit scary, don't get me wrong, towards the end. I would say it's more thriller.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty basic plot. James McAvoy plays someone with 23 split personalities, really bringing out his acting potential. Mind you, only 7 of the personalities, 7 or 8, are only shown in the film. But it's essentially one of his bad negative personalities takes away and kidnaps these 3 girls.
Yeah.
And essentially it's these 3 girls trying to escape his captivity.
Yeah.
And he slowly comes in as all these different personalities, freaking out the girls, and they try and manipulate his certain personalities to see if one's a bit more flexible that can let them out, and just trying to find bits and certain ways just to actually just get out of his captivity.
Yeah, so looking at this is sort of his renaissance a little bit in the Shyamalan sort of, because this ends up, and this gives him the ability to then make Glass.
Yes. Well, actually, he financed Glass on by himself.
Yeah.
He was that confident.
Split and went from a $9 million budget to make just under $300 million across the world. And I feel like that's, we haven't really spoken too much about this, is that if you want it, like, horror movies are a very easy way to, easy is probably a little bit tough to say, easy, to make a box office hit with a small budget, because you can confine, I'm guessing with sort of this in Split, there's not a load of locations. It's a sort of smaller space and all of that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit cheaper to make there. So McAvoy, so we're sort of sliding across and then moving into Glass. But how does Split, you just said at the end, no one knew that this was a thing. What's your reactions when that had sort of happened, that this was in a sequel and sort of like a shared universe in a way?
Yeah, well, I originally was in the cinema and I had no idea about Unbreakable when I saw Split. So when I saw that end credits, I remember people whispering in the crowd, and I was like, "What? Oh, Bruce
Yeah,
Willis? That's kind of random."
yeah,
No idea, that Unbreakable was the original. So I had to go back and watch that following
yeah,
this film. But Unbreakable created the superhero, and almost Split created the supervillain of the
yeah,
story, really. When James McAvoy's character, because towards the end, James McAvoy, without turn off now if
yeah,
you don't want to hear spoilers, but James McAvoy's 24th personality was this super villain monster,
yeah,
essentially, who can walk on walls, and it got a bit weird towards the end if you're watching up until that point.
yeah,
But it makes a lot of sense when Glass came out. So Glass was released not many years later. So Glass came out last year, I
yeah.
believe.
2019.
Yeah, yeah. So it feels a bit longer than that now. So Glass brings together Unbreakable, Bruce Willis, Samuel Jackson, and James McAvoy
Yeah,
from Split. And it essentially, it's kept low budget again because he did finance this himself. So this is where they're all kind of brought into the same universe, and they're all brought to a mental institution where this woman questions their superheroes. And also, it's kind of a psychological thriller in a way because she brings, I'll just name there. So she brings in David Dunn, his super strength,
yeah,
Kevin Wendell Crumb, who's James McAvoy, and then Mr. Glass. And she brings them in and she questions them. She's like, "Are your abilities real?" She says, "You might just be a bit stronger than the average guy. It doesn't mean you have superpowers. Mr. Glass, yes, you're really smart and
yeah,
manipulative.
yeah,
You know, can it doesn't mean, you're superpowered." And James McAvoy, you have all these personalities and you can get, strong at certain points. Doesn't really make you, a supervillain or a superhero either.
yeah,
And as an audience, you're almost questioning this too. You're thinking, well, are they actually powerful?
yeah,
Across these last two films, are we just witnessing just, you know, just a, just really strange things happening?
yeah,
And, they might just be normal people. And I really like that side of the coin.
yeah.
But at the end, without, once again, I won't
Yeah,
give
no, it's
spoilers
fine.
because you
No,
might want to watch this, but they all do break out, and
yeah,
there's this many bit of a fight scene going on between them, the prison guards, and the cops that
yeah,
come into the situation. It doesn't end. It's a bit anticlimactic.
yeah,
I can't say I liked the way it ended, um, but it ended in a way that kind of potentially opens it up to new movies because at the end, Samuel Jackson releases footage of them
mhm,
using their powers through the security cameras of the mental institution. And he shows that to the world, showing that superheroes,
who
could
exists.
potentially be, are real and they
Yeah,
could be around the world.
yeah,
So it's almost, saying, well, if you're a superhero, we're superheroes, come out and show the
mm,
world what you've got. And that's
okay,
kind of the message of that film. And yeah, so there could be future, parts of this trilogy. But no, it's a yeah, it's a good trilogy, good superhero films, low budget, but really fantastic. And Shyamalan has done
yeah.
a really good job of these.
So do you see now? Because I know obviously the thing with M Night is we're always sort of waiting for twists and turns and a
Mm.
majority of things in his movies. Are we going to be thinking now, when it said he's releasing two films that are currently sort of in production now in 2021, 2023? So again, they may change. But are we going to wait for like little things for like an end credit scene or something that these are connected to more movies? Or is he going to, do you reckon he'll wait another 8 years or 10 years and then try and bring these back in? Like, is that, that's the type of thing he would do, correct?
Yeah, because even through this trilogy, there's lots of twists as well that
Mm,
I didn't even see coming
yeah,
personally, in both Unbreakable and Split, and
yeah,
I guess Glass as
yeah,
well. So yeah, I guess depends on how successful his career was, because
yeah.
really between two, the apart from the early 2000s and up until Split, his career wasn't on a roll really. He
No,
had
he'd,
made a
he'd been
lot of
struggling.
yeah, he'd been really
Yeah,
struggling. So he probably thought, well, let's connect this to one of my more successful movies last minute and, make a really good third
mm,
Avengers like one. And that should bring up the box office numbers.
yeah,
So, down the line, if he, doesn't hit a few, good movies, he might connect one of these parts of the trilogy back to another film,
Uh, Pardon me. I think it's like a
or a
safe
Sixth
sort of,
Sense, or something that he's
yeah.
done well. Yeah,
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 he might then throw something here back again, and that's the easy way, is just throwing in one character you've previously had, or throwing a picture or something, and you go, oh shit, here we go. And that's probably how many people then went, you know what, I'm going to go back and rewatch Split, is
yeah.
to look where this is connected, and that gets you a repeat viewing, especially for horror movies, obviously, because they struggle to. Yeah, obviously you repeat viewing sometimes. So now you've really improved my knowledge on those, Mace. So thank you.
Oh, good. I'm
Uh,
glad.
so
I'll go
one,
watch them.
yeah, go watch them now. So the other one I wanted to sort of talk about before you got into a couple of your ideas was Chronicle. Um,
Yes.
the Where are we? So the Josh Trank movie from 2012 that was written by Max Landis. So everyone knows Max Landis and his sort of weird and wonderful worlds that, pardon me, that he tries to create, with obviously a little bit of controversy. And he did also write Bright and produce on Bright, the Netflix movie. So he had this idea and to make this movie Chronicle. Where does your memory of Chronicle sort of sit? And this obviously brings us our first sort of, not first, but key big sort of productions of Dane DeHaan, Michael B. Jordan, that are there. What's your first memories of this movie?
That it came out during the shaky cam footage period, where I think it was 2012. I think Chronicle came out. So during that time, I think you had Cloverfield, and you had a few other films, that involved that shaky camera,
Do that a bit again,
documentary
Jack.
stuff. No, I'm good. Um, and that kind of film was quite big, about 7 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember it being quite a good movie. And then at the end, it really went out of proportion. I was like, did not see any of this coming.
No.
But I remember it being, a good, superhero romp, well
I think
developed.
this is always my favorite thing for a lot of these directors is how it works. Like, you do the smaller production, and then you get given the keys to. Obviously, he got given the keys to Fan Four Stick, Josh Trank. But that's what I sort of love. It's like, okay, can you do this small movie? And you're sort of doing the same thing. So now we're just going to give you another $100 million to spend in big budget, because this is a lower. It's three guys that coming together, bromances story sort of thing of how three guys can get superpowers. And like you're saying, it sort of gives me vibes of Shazam in a way too, of them recording all their sort of stuff, working out their powers and how they are and etc. like that, learning how to fly and all these other things, because it does remind me, like we said in the Shazam episode, of that's what we would be doing. And sort of 2012 world they're set in is less social mediaized. Like, there'd be YouTube and stuff back then, but it wasn't as big as it is now, and as readily available and easily to upload stuff. So that's what I kind of loved in that bromance that we don't sort of see in movies as much. And I agree with you. The sort of first two parts of this film have great rewatchability for the character development side of things. And then we
Yeah.
have to throw into the big over-the-top fight scenes at the end with Dane DeHaan, what I actually think are very well done and quite memorable.
Yeah, for
But
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because it's Michael B. Jordan's character who dies, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
He's the one who dies, and then it's because I was just looking at this Alex Russell bloke, who is the other main guy, and when you're looking at someone's sort of career path, and you're like, yeah, you just haven't taken that next level as that everyone else. Like
Yes.
Dane
Yeah.
DeHaan, maybe Dane DeHaan also himself would not be as where he would have probably thought he would be now, if that's fair.
No, he had a lot of potential coming out of this movie, but unfortunately, he's made a few box office bombs that's
Yeah,
kind of pushed his rep down a little bit, I think.
yeah, and in the end, he probably made a smart decision to then sign on to Amazing Spider-Man 2. You would have thought at the time, like, I'm going to be playing a Harry Osborn character for a bit of time. That's my guy. And then obviously
Yeah.
our favorite, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Ooh, what a movie!
Yes. Yeah. Please,
Signing
to
off the
anyone
bat.
listening, do not watch that film.
That's one that you just have to get really drunk for. But no, I think
Yeah.
that this is why I think Chronicle is sort of represents that time, like you said, of the shaky cam, but represents these movies can be made on a smaller budget that you base on character development. what I really do enjoy. Like, I think this is it's a good film, and maybe the shaky cam takes it out of you a little bit, and the way it's sort of
Yeah,
set up. But this was a bona fide hit for everyone, and distributed by 20th Century Fox, and sort of unearthed some really good new actors
it
in
did. Yeah.
sort of their major new roles. But no, what's any final things on Chronicle?
Yeah, well, going off Chronicle, as you said, Josh Trank did do Fantastic Four, and was probably the biggest superhero bomb of all time.
Yeah,
But apparently there was lots of studio intervention for Fantastic Four. But I think this is Josh with a very original vision. He got the money he needed for this film, and this is something clearly he had been planning for a long time by himself.
yeah,
It was his script, his most of it was kind of his story,
yeah,
with Max Landis. But and I think Michael B. Jordan was in this too, so we also found his cast that he really liked,
yeah,
and I do, from what I've read, he was very close with everyone around him, so it's very comfortable making this film, and I think the love and care is shown through pretty much 83 minutes of this film.
yeah.
So I would definitely recommend this to everyone listening as well. Yeah, it's short, it's sweet, and it gets a bit weird at the end, but no, it's good. No, it's good for us. Yeah, superhero film.
I think this is he's taken, obviously, Josh Trank a massive hit after Fan Four Stick, and you can see Chronicle is well received by critics, with just under 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Getting a 7 out of 10 from a lot of people anyway, for a film that they love. And I think then moving into Fan Four Stick, but it shows again that with a story and an idea, you don't need to always push to that. Sometimes these directors don't need to just. It must obviously be hard, and you obviously, when someone gives you Fantastic Four, you go, yeah, 100%, I'm going to do it. But maybe this guy's not that type of director anyway, and he needs like that story and to have that more sort of connection, because you can feel this is a Josh Trank movie sort of through it, with obviously a bit of Max Landis writing the story. But no.
Mm.
So next, and it's sort of, we unearth Aaron Taylor Johnson in this movie in Kick-Ass. Now, what's your first memories of this? Because I remember watching this the first time, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good movie. Like, and I think this is the thing where, again, we're talking about sequels and stuff. Kick-Ass doesn't make as much cash, but
Mm.
as you'd sort of expect, lower budget movie, and I love my Nicolas Cage and things. And this also brings everyone's favorite Mark Strong, generic bad guy, into
He
yeah,
loves it, doesn't he?
yeah. Can we just do a podcast on Mark Strong playing the bad guy?
Yeah, we sure can.
A Mark
This might need
Strong
2 episodes.
centric podcast. But no, so what is your first memories of Kick-Ass? Because I prefer the first one by far compared to the sequel.
Oh, so do I. So yeah, the first
Yeah,
one made enough money to obviously warrant a
obviously.
sequel, but I thought, because this came out just before Chronicle did,
Yeah,
and it's a bit more of a Hollywood film.
yeah,
Got that bit, double the budget essentially. But it's very crude. Puts a different spin on a lot of the superhero movies we saw before. I think it's kind of what a teenager would do.
yeah,
We've seen what kids would do if they got these powers, but it's almost if they didn't get any powers, they just want to go out and help the world essentially. So it's pretty much Aaron Taylor Johnson with his girlfriend and his mate, just almost creating a costume and going out to fight, I guess, the crime boss played by Mark Strong.
yeah,
And it's they're bloody useless, but
yeah,
he finds Hit Girl and Nicolas Cage, who are their own superheroes in their own right, trying to take down this crime boss too. So it's just a whole lot of banter, and I think it's just a lot of fun. And it's definitely very R-rated. There's lots of profanity, and it can get quite gruesome. But no, it's probably more fun than some of the other stuff we've talked
yeah.
about today.
So I remember this as one that you sort of didn't know what you're 100% expecting. And again,
Mm,
this is based on Mark Miller, a comic book graphic novel. So,
yeah.
and that's what Matthew Vaughn loves adapting a bit of a Mark Miller sort of thing. And I think this is just sort of like, you were going into the superhero genre as we know it now, again, like 10 years ago, but we weren't expecting, I think, styles of movies like this sort of 100% of that time. And I don't know if you could do this sort of stuff again today. But I just remember sort of like even looking at the poster again, it's blood and guts sort of everywhere, but it's all in their colors and of all their different costumes. And so it's the classic like bright greens, reds, pinks. So you know who everyone sort of is in different ways. And I think this
Mm.
is just sort of like a fun field. You got the guys over, you got snacks. You can rewatch this, and everyone's going to have a good time. Is that a fair
Yeah.
sort of is that like a sort of a fair way to sort of say it? And there's a lot of also growing up as you say into like this high school and girls and all these things, and people thinks he's gay and all this sort of stuff. And there's also gruesome fighting, and it's not like because he doesn't have superpowers. It's just the fact that his body is like just all metal and stuff.
Well,
He can
none of
just
them
take,
have
yeah,
superpowers.
he can
Yeah.
just take it. He can just take a beating. So
Mm.
it's all of them just going like it sort of feels a bit more real worldy in a way of like imagine if we just see people flying around on jetpacks or like there is just a Batman style person in this
Yeah.
world. So that's what I think is it's an interesting way, and it sort of puts you into their shoes. Maybe not as Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, but maybe as one of his friends to go. This is sort of what you could be and have a mate like this. And I like the setup of them at the sort of like the comic book shop and all those sort of things. That's how he creates his characters. So
Yeah, I mean, they
uh,
have the tech and the weapons, but they don't have superpowers, and because of that, their lives are on the line. And I think because of that, at the beginning, Aaron Tyler Johnson's character's just getting bashed up.
yeah,
So there's no like big story where he comes on the streets and starts bashing up people. He starts off really weak, and even at the end of it, he still can't do a lot. Yeah, he relies on Hit Girl and Nicolas Cage's character to
yeah.
carry him through a lot of the movie.
No, I think yeah, that one for me is quite yeah. It's like a coming of age story in the opposite
Hmm,
way.
it is.
In a way, like
Hmm.
it's a coming of age story in the way that this guy's just you and me who doesn't really have that much fighting skills and all this sort of stuff, and he becomes a
Thanks, mate.
super. Yeah, no. Well, I mean, it's like if you and I just got this week decided we're going to be superheroes,
Yeah, no,
like
we'd be gone within the first 10 minutes. I
that. Oh
get
yeah,
that.
you'd be gone straight because just your fitness level. I'd be running like say the cops are coming. I've got to get away from the cops. I'm like. Like there's no way. Or imagine being on like a bike or something. Like, there's no way it happens. And again, that's
Getting
what
away,
kind of
my Mazda 3.
but
Yeah.
yeah, like and then you're like stopping at a light, like because you take off from lights
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
slowly. Got to check both ways. Then we go.
Yeah,
So
would be pretty useless.
it would be useless. I think it's one of those things we'd all like to think we could do it.
Mm,
Like if
mm.
one day like I came and had this is a massive segue, but if we had the cash, like I could be Batman, I reckon. Like again, just
All right.
how life. No,
I'd
I'm
pay to
not
see
saying.
that.
I'm not saying I could, but you'd think like I reckon I could do it. Like
Yeah.
there's no way you can, but imagine a Batman in Adelaide because there'd just be there's no buildings to look over. Like it's still one of my favorite things. This is a massive segue, but like um, diverting off is that in the first Spider-Man with Tom Holland when he's out in like the suburbs and he has to get back
Yeah.
into the city, but there's no trees and like real buildings to swing off. So then you just see him running. I think is just great. That's like one of my
Yeah.
favorite things in that movie because imagine if you did throw Batman into Adelaide or like at least Melbourne or Sydney. There's some buildings that you could deal with.
He'd be
But like
taking the tram.
yeah, but imagine that because there's no way you can like fly or anything. Like you can
Mm.
get there's no way crime like I just think of that sometimes. Like imagine him having to come from like the '60s Batman where they're in the hills and Batman has to
Yeah.
drive into the city all the time. Imagine him like coming down the freeway and having to go slowly or whatever. Like get stuck at the lights, like having to go through the shitty
It's
roadworks
just like
again.
Thor taking the underground in the second one. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like taking public transport.
Like that's
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, that's a massive segue. Just a
but
random
no,
thought.
it's realistic. It gives the message that anyone can be a superhero,
Mm.
not quite in the same way, but it's possible.
It's possible. So
Mm.
Kick-Ass 2. Now, for me, this is the classic because this thing gets released. It's a little bit of time after, not too long, but this is at the height of like, well, the first one's done well enough. We're gonna make
Mm.
a sequel. Now, it doesn't do well at the box office at all. Now, so the first one only made just under 100 mil, so it's like a touch and go. Same budget. This one makes 60 mil at the box office. Why do you think this one didn't resonate with people enough to at least make back the original money on the sequel? So where does this sit for you?
Well, the story wasn't as strong, and I don't, and they had this, the humor and everything. But I also think that Jim Carrey was a big character in this film. And while it was being promoted, he withdrew support
Yeah.
due to the amount of violence,
Okay.
and with the Sandy Hook elementary
Yeah.
school shooting. So yeah, he didn't like any of the violence that happened, and he withdrew himself from all media, all interviews. And I think that had a lot of people questioning about what the film was going to be like. And I heard about it at the time, and I was thinking, if Jim Carrey, pulled out
Yeah.
of this, what does this actually mean for the film? So I think that story and that controversy while the film was being out and promoted affected a lot of people going to the cinemas to actually see it. I don't think it made a huge difference because at its core, it wasn't as good. The villain, it wasn't Mark Strong. You had what's his name? What's the bad guy's name? The
Is
kid,
it the Chris? It's the
the
mince
motherfucker.
place. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The villain's name is the motherfucker, and it was Christopher Mintz plus whatever
Yeah.
his name is from the first one, and
Mhm.
he was the main villain, and he is not intimidating whatsoever. He is not scary. He's stupid. Yes, he has his dad's money to buy him other superheroes to protect him,
Mhm.
but as a villain and being in the main spotlight, it's just wasn't as fun or as threatening as Mark Strong in the original.
Do you think with this too, because his sort of character again, he makes his sort of big role that he originally
Mm,
gets is in Superbad. So that's when and then so hiring him as a part of Kick-Ass, that's sort of very
mm,
close to at the start, like sort of that actor's coming up. So you'd be thinking, obviously, he's probably hired straight after Superbad is. Now at this point here, he's not as a bigger character as people would expect also. So you sort like when it gets to 2013, he's not a massive draw card into the universe and to get
mm,
people sort of into the cinema. This one just again shows me it's like sequelitis. We got a different director. In the end, Matthew Vaughan's there, but he's as a producer, but he's not obviously. I think it's probably just producing credit in the end. Story's done by Jeff Woodlow, who also directs it. So it just doesn't have that same spice like the original. And
no.
everything's sort of trying to up it in a way. And I think what made the original great, it doesn't do it in the sequel. And I know, and sometimes doesn't you have to change genres for sequels and in trilogies to keep characters fresh. I just think this was like we're going to just continue on, and we're going to hope this is just going to blow up, and this is going to be
Yeah.
unreal. And it just doesn't hit it for me.
I mean, I love the chemistry between Aaron Taylor Johnson and Chloe
Mhm.
Grace Moretz, like
Yeah,
as Hit Girl. I really like the way they play off each other. She's
yeah,
shooting him in the chest at the beginning, and the banter between that. And it kind of does carry on the message of the first one that anyone could be a hero. And in
yeah,
this one, the storyline is essentially there is groups of heroes now, and
yeah,
Tim and Hit Girl do join these heroes to go and solve crimes.
yeah,
So it does carry off and is a natural story progression from the first film. But I think it's a bit too much of what made the first one really good. It pushes it, it's a little more gruesome. The humor's a little more vulgar, and it doesn't quite land in the same way. It doesn't feel as original as the first.
yeah. No, I think that sort of you've hit it on the nail, hit the nail on the head there. I think
Mm.
because that for me sort of yeah, that sort of you smash it there because that for me
Yeah.
is 100%. Yeah, I think it's yeah, that's the movie for me. And you look at sort of the characters and stuff again. It's like is Aaron Taylor Johnson also just sort of yeah? I know. I think you've nailed it on the head. I'll stop there. You've done well.
Yeah, I mean, the
But
first one did so well because it was this original IP and
yeah,
idea. And this one just took to the next level and
yeah,
it drew all the fun out a little bit.
yeah.
And yeah, it just wasn't the same.
No, I think yeah.
Taken up to the next level. Mm.
So the next one we're gonna talk about because we'll leave push depending on how much time we have. But I wanted to talk about today because I don't know if as many people know about this film as much, and it's on Netflix. And I think whenever you see Robbie Amell, Stephen Amell, etc., you go like Arrowverse and all this sort of stuff. Like
I didn't even know they were
teen,
cousins. So
no, yeah, teenage
mm.
dramas. Robbie Amell's in heaps of teenage sort of drama stuff where he plays like the jock and all these sort of things. So Code 8 is a movie that got released late at the end of 2019 on Netflix. So it is just briefly again. I won't go into too many spoilers sort of stuff, or we'll set an exact time that we'll talk about spoilers for the end of it.
Mm.
But this movie, I was pleasantly surprised, and sort of 2-3 weeks ago, I started to watch it, and I told you to watch it pretty quickly, and I told some other people to watch it. Now, I wasn't expecting much, like I said at the start, because you see the Amell cousins and you go, okay, here we go. But I was so pleasantly surprised with this film on a very low budget. They don't say exactly how much it was, but it's sort of independently done. That I really enjoyed this. Like I thought it was
Mm,
quite well done for a lower budget movie about what life would be like if we did have superpowers in this world. Because we obviously love the boys. Both of us love the boys, and how it would be if people marketed superheroes. But this sort of comes from the world of we're trying to stop superheroes, or they have to be regulated, sort of like a
mm.
superhero act. So, what's your first thoughts on this? Because I remember when I was telling you about it, you had no idea, and
No, no.
they
Well,
used sort of
yeah.
sorry, I'll just quickly go because I just saw it here. They used an Indiegogo fundraising campaign asking for 200,000 to get this done after they did a little bit of a sort of a what's the key word I'm looking for? But they released a
Short film.
short film.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is. Sort of a teaser. That's what I was looking for a potential feature film, and
Mm.
they ended up reaching 2.4 million dollars worth of investors, and then the fundraising closed a little bit later in the year where they just notched over 3 mil. So, what's your first thoughts on this, Jack? In the
Well,
end,
the short film, that 10-minute short film they released in 2016,
yeah,
obviously got people really excited.
so, yeah,
And, at this stage in 2019, if you're going to do a superhero film and you don't have the budget of something like the
mm,
Avengers, you've got to find your own twist and your own spin on the
yeah,
genre. And what the ML, cousins have done is they've found this spin, they've put it in a world where if people have powers, they're just normal people.
yeah,
But in order to do jobs, they need warrants, and they need to
mm,
be regulated.
yeah,
And if they disobey the law, they're gonna get into some deep shit. And so they have to be careful. It's not a generic superhero film.
no,
These two characters, the Amell cousins,
yeah,
they're essentially the villains.
yeah,
And it's showing, if you are a superhero person in this world and you can't use your powers, you're more likely to turn into the villain because you're being regulated. And you feel this need to hit back at the government and the cops. And it's been because of that it becomes this half heist film, half superhero film.
yeah.
And that's what makes it unique. And they blend the two genres very well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I I love the aspect of it also in the way of again how they talk about whether the sort of liquid coming from their spines of superheroes and stuff that would be the drug of the world. I
Hmm.
honestly think like no one would care about cocaine and cocaine and all that sort of stuff in the world. This would be the thing that and people would be selling as superheroes to live sort of their powers and their sort of whatever the liquidy stuff is sort of called in the end anyway. What is it called again? Sorry, just looking. It's like
Um,
I don't know exactly what it is called, but I like how they also talk about a drug called psych. Um,
that's it.
so yeah, it's flooded the streets in a way, and I also enjoy their aspect of like a class system for the superheroes. So
Hmm.
as they're saying that, was it Robbie Amell's character is like a class 5 electric, so they've
Yeah.
got their ranking systems that you and I could be a class 1. We're a nobody, and that means we can probably still continue to work and stuff while being regulated.
Yeah.
But and how sort of families and work and different things and sort of the dynamics that anyone can really be or have a kid or a person with superpowers. I would say 100%. This was going to be in one of my show and tell segments at one point. Is 100% give this a watch. I think if you're bored, you got a windy, wet day, watch this movie. It's 2 hours. It goes pretty quick. Or it's not even. It's just under two.
Hmm.
It goes quick. It's enjoyable. There's obviously some cliches here and there, but I honestly think for what they did on this budget, they've done like a very good job
Yeah,
for an
yeah, yeah.
independent movie. Like a very good job that not many people know about this, and they've done an excellent job.
Yeah, the visual effects are very good, I thought.
Yeah,
There's a few, robots and
yeah,
drones in it that, they look legit. Like
yeah,
for the budget, they
yeah,
look like they would exist in this world and quite potentially be real in a couple of years.
yeah. That's the because
Yes.
I watched it and I was like, damn, yeah, like you said, this looks good. Like the action set pieces, and again, you notice a lot of the stuff is in small sort of areas and how it's done. But they've got some good names again that come through it. Now, just sort of heading into a bit of spoiler territory and stuff. And this is found out a little bit later. I just want to chat about. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's an underrated thing that could still be looked at. I don't think they'll make a sequel or anything, but and I don't think they touched on it just enough too is the I think it's Sung Kang, who is what's his face in Fast and the Furious, is Han
Yes.
in Fast and the Furious. How his daughter has superpowers. I would have liked them to sort of play on that a little bit more, as he's sort of there's the good guy, bad or good cop, bad cop sort of dynamic between him and
Yeah.
his partner, and he's too scared to talk about it in a way because his daughter does have superpowers. What I thought was an interesting thing, and I would have liked that to probably be touched on just a little bit more, if that's fair. Just
Yeah.
because, yeah, I think like it was there, and it's maybe a scene or two was sort of left on the cutting room floor, and I liked that sort of the addition of that in there. But yeah, it's pretty tough because there's some good twists, there's some good turns. Again, as the
Mm.
viewer, you sort of think maybe something's happening, and this isn't as good as it is, or like for them. But there's some brutal murders and stuff too. I thought it was just a really good watch.
Yeah, and there's some
Mm,
emotional attachment, like you said.
yeah,
There's the cop in the film,
mm,
Sung Kang,
mm, mm,
and his connection is with his
yeah,
daughter, so you do feel for him and his daughter.
mm,
And then there's Robbie Amell,
yeah,
whose mother is getting
yeah,
really sick, and that's why he needs to do this job, to get the money to support her, and that's his love of his life. And then one point in the film, he says, "If I don't have my mother, there's no
yeah,
point in me living. So just arrest me, kill me. I'm
yeah,
I'm not really bothered." So there's this quite intimate connection between, wanting to root for him and, so he can support his mother, even though he's committing all these heists and these crimes for, his cousin, essentially,
yeah,
who plays Garrett Kelton. So yeah, no, it's good. I think it's, good mix of connections and,
mm,
gets the empathy going.
yeah.
And yeah, no, just a fun romp.
So I think my favorite thing for a lot of these things is when they pick the ages of characters. Now, there is no reason for me at this point. Like, I love just looking and they go, Connor Reed, who's Robbie Amell's character, is 26 years old.
Mm,
Why don't you just
mm.
make him 29? Because Robbie Amell's 32. Like, he looks old. He doesn't look like you and me at 26. Now, no, but he looks old. I know they're looking for ages, but why do we even have to give an age to someone? Because that was when straight away I hate in movies when they're like, and he's 22. And I'm like, well, that guy's not 20. Just make him 25. It doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah,
little things. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. Maybe it's weird if he's 30, he's living at home and shit. And
I did
in this,
notice that. Yeah.
yeah, just sometimes when I look at people, because there's times when Robbie Amell will then play in like a teen drama. He'll play the high school jock and he's 29, playing a role of a 17-year-old. I'm like,
Yeah.
just can't we pick someone else? Like, but no,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was
I
good.
mean, I'm watching Upload now, the new Amazon series, and
Yeah,
even in that, he says, "Oh, I'm 27 years old," and I
yeah,
was thinking, "Well, you're not." So
yeah,
yeah, he likes throwing around his age in his movies.
yeah. Just being like, come on, buddy. That's really good though, isn't it? Upload. I think we're going to talk about that
Yeah,
next
I'm enjoying
show or
it.
two. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Bit off
pardon me.
topic, but yes,
Bit off
yeah,
topic.
I'll
So no,
recommend that. Yeah,
pardon me. I think we won't have time to chat about Push because you got to go in a sec, and I want to go into a couple of things that we've watched because we've missed that in the last couple of episodes. So
yeah,
no, I think a lot of these movies are good to have a watch and perfect in these times of quarantine times to go back and we're used to now the $100 million budgets in superhero movies. So going back and again, some of these ones 70 mil, 50 mil, 25 mil, but I think it's good to go back and have a look and appreciate some other movies that don't have Batman, Superman, and Avengers characters in there.
yeah.
So
Agreed.
now into our show and tell segment, Jack. That each week we want to just sort of discuss what we've watched. Now you were saying you were watching Upload. Is that one of your ones that you've been checking out?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's fun. So essentially, Robbie Amell's character, so the same character from Code 8, he finds himself in a car crash, and it's set in the future. So in the future, in this show, your consciousness and your mind can be uploaded to almost a virtual simulation
Yeah,
once you've died. And so it's his connection, and the people who man it are just a normal business, and they can talk to these dead people and who simulate their environment while they're dead. And it's all these people who are, who
yeah,
have passed away in this virtual construct, and they can talk to each other. And because it is all virtual, breakfast disappears at 10 o'clock.
yeah,
There's no real point eating, yet they all eat.
yeah,
And there's just all these kind of, it plays at, he's trying to reach for his Coke, in his minibar, and there's microtransaction fees to get
yeah,
his Coke. He's in this virtual world. And it's just a whole lot of little jokes that kind of play on what society is like now and what it, could be like in death in the future. Our minds could be
Yeah.
uploaded to a virtual simulation. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I like his character in it, and it's also between his relationship between him and the person who's kind of controlling his environment
Yeah.
on the outer world. And it's a good dynamic. And yeah, I'd give it a shot. Yeah, watch the first 2 episodes. I think they're kind of the defining ones. And if you don't like it from there, maybe skip it.
Yeah.
But it's a good little Amazon show that's kind of gone under the radar.
Okay, perfect. So anything else you've checked out this week?
I'm still watching Defending Jacob. That's
Yeah.
something I still highly recommend.
Yeah.
But apart from that, yeah, I've just been, watching Unbreakable and the superhero films from this episode.
So Upload and Defending Jacob are released weekly. Is that correct? Or is that in a block?
Upload, I think most of Upload's out now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Defending Jacob's up to episode 6 now, and
Yeah.
7 and 8 will come out the next couple of Fridays.
Okay, yeah. So that's a weekly release.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So in the end, I sort of, before we decided on a topic, I watched a couple of things earlier, sort of after last week. Again, finished The Last Dance, again, for everyone who, and I also think, Jack, for yourself, would be an interesting watch. I know you're not.
I have been watching it.
Oh, you have? Where are you at?
Yeah. Episode 7. Where the last episode 10's out now, isn't it? I haven't watched 9 or 10.
No.
Yeah.
So are you enjoying it though?
Yeah, I'm actually quite loving it. I find it quite interesting. Like, I don't know too much, let's be honest. I don't know too much about basketball.
Yeah.
So, no, it's really interesting just to see his career and, all the merchandise behind it all.
Yeah.
I think it's, quite fascinating. He doesn't look well. In a lot of his interviews, he does not look healthy currently. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
But no, I find it quite fascinating. Yeah, just the money
what
involved.
happens when you drink every single day and have that many cigars and stuff.
Yeah, poor guy. He might have something wrong with his liver or something. But yeah, no, he's amazing career, amazing man. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for anyone, again, for myself, I don't know too much about Jordan. I obviously knew a lot, but not a lot of these backstories. But I think for anyone who loves documentaries, even if you don't like sport, it's a really interesting watch. And the guys who have created it have done an exceptional job to, one, get this out, because I was just learning before that this wasn't supposed to be out. It was supposed to be out like around now. So once the season had finished, but the NBA asked them if they can get this thing done because there's nothing to put on TV. So obviously for the people, then they went into overdrive to get this thing bloody finished. And I think that's also why it was released over multiple weeks in a way too. So no, I think that's a one you have to watch. Now, another one, Jack, is, have you watched Big Mouth on Netflix, the comedy, the cartoon comedy?
Cartoon?
Yeah, cartoon, yeah.
No, because I think my memory of it looks really weird from looking at the images.
It does. And I have to say, what a hoot. What a hoot. So give this a watch again. It's crude and disgusting, but also in a way, without like giving too much away, it's cartoon. It's done by Andrew Goldberg and Nick Kroll. So when you see Nick Kroll and then you Google his character, like Google who he is, you go, oh, that guy from comedy things like comedy sketches, etc. Plays sort of himself. Both of them sort of played their characters and going through puberty in high school. In a way, Andrew Goldberg was a writer on Family Guy, so there's a little bit of spin in that and how the comedy works. And you listen to some of the voices and you go, oh, it's that guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's this character here. And I think it's a really interesting watch in a way that no one really wants to go into puberty growing up through high school and sort of things that happen. But when you think back and look at it, you go, this is the beauty of a Netflix sort of platform, because they don't have to worry about ratings and you don't have to worry about, a studio essentially going, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. Apparently Netflix just said, go for it. We like what you've done and just keep making content. So it's an interesting watch. Again, if you're looking for a little bit of a comedy, wouldn't watch it 100% with your families and stuff. It does look weird. Give it a shot for the first couple of episodes. And I'm just sort of drip feeding it while there's sort of some things in the background and stuff. So I enjoy it there, and I think it's a beautiful thing like Netflix is, that you can just sort of create these shows, because it reminds me a bit of like Adult Swim back in the day on your Cartoon Network.
That's what I thought. That's what it appeared like.
So if an Adult Swim was now, I think that's who'd take it up. But now that's the beauty of Netflix, is it can sort of go on. It's been renewed for 4, 5, 6 seasons now, so it obviously is getting the views in that way, and I hadn't sort of looked at it until a couple of weeks ago. The only other one I wanted to quickly chat about before you got to get out is I watched finally yesterday the Beatles movie that was out last year. Now,
you watched that yesterday, mate?
Nah. And that is the end of the podcast. No. So I just watched that, and it's one of those ones that I think we went through a time in 2018, 2019 of movies around artists and around
Mm.
bands, and that was sort of the blow up at the time with obviously the Elton John movie and then the Queen movie there too. So I didn't mind yesterday. I like the concept, and I think it's a pretty easy one. I hated the ending, to be perfectly honest. I would give it a watch.
Mm.
It's a kind of a cute sort of rom-com-y style of thing. Like
Yeah.
you said when I messaged you about it, you're like, Ed Sheeran's so shoehorned into this, it's not even funny. He can't act to save
Yeah.
his life. And it's like the thing where they're always like, oh, you're the best person ever and you're better than I am. It's like, is Ed basically then saying he's the best ever besides the
Yeah,
Beatles? Like,
technically.
yeah, I was like, sometimes I was listening to some of the things he's saying and I'm like, Ed, are you essentially saying I'm the best ever and I could write a song in 10 minutes, but
Yeah.
the Beatles are the only ones better than me? Is that just me reading into it a little bit too much?
No, it
Like,
came across in that way because
yeah,
this guy, just to for those people
yeah,
who don't know the plot, this guy gets knocked off his bike and woken
yeah.
up in a world without the Beatles songs. So he pretty much knows them enough to create them himself, and he
Himself,
takes
yeah.
credit for them all. But yeah, bringing Ed Sheeran into it, like that's an original enough of a story to
So, yeah,
start with. You can
yeah.
make so much from a guy,
Oh,
who knows all the Beatles songs no one
yeah,
else does.
yeah,
Yet they feel for some reason to bring Ed Sheeran into it to, whether
yeah.
it's the star power of him to bring in people to the film, but he's not needed. You
No,
know what I mean? Mm.
I think he could have been needed just in that sort of first part, like literally just
Cameo,
that
yeah.
first
Mm.
bit where it's like, okay, the reason why it's the UK, he's met now the producers and stuff. That's it.
Mm.
Shit, that's him done. Like maybe have that ride off battle where again he picks a song or whatever, and then we don't really need to see Ed again, maybe until like really to the end. But no,
Yeah.
I kind of hated again spoiler territory for all of this now. If you're listening, because I just wanted to get this off my chest. Now, if this is you in this situation, Jack, there is no way in hell, as much as you want to tell the chick and tell everyone the truth, because the truth is always better in that way. No one else knows about the Beatles besides those two other people. So why do you feel
Yeah.
like you have to? You could make a career for 50 years on this music and live happily. You could even after you've released this album that he's said to be releasing or whatever it is, then never do the music again and reap royalty checks for the rest of your life. Then go and do your teaching at schools because that's apparently what you want to do. But at no point at the movie he really goes. He only ever wants to be a singer songwriter. That's like the
Yeah.
thing that he wants to do. And then it's always like, oh, I could go back and be a teacher. At no point he loves teaching. So then why is it now that he likes teaching? Like, that's the thing that annoyed me at the end. I'm like, just
Yeah.
take the money. The chick's still probably going to love you because you've just never told her that you actually
The truth.
like her, essentially. Like,
Yeah.
you have, but it's not like she's going to come live with you in bloody America. You're rich as hell. Like, that story, it just annoyed me sometimes because I'm like, if you're going to be the biggest superstar in the world and the chick loves you, I'm pretty sure you're going to get her. Maybe is that am I
Yeah.
right? Am I wrong in that respect?
No, you're right. Because I find it good in a way though that the film he doesn't go back to normal life. At the
Yeah,
end, the Beatles still don't exist. And
yeah,
there's a really funny bit at the end in the just before the film ends, he finds out in this world Harry Potter doesn't exist.
mm,
So he's like, "Oh,
mm,
more money there."
yeah.
I would be stuffed. I can't remember the Beatles lyrics nor the Harry
No,
Potter words in the books. I would be stuffed
no,
either way with that knowledge.
yeah,
But yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But it is what it is, isn't it?
yeah.
It's just
I like you said about the Harry Potter stuff. I kind of didn't. I would have, as much as I hate montages sometimes in movies, I would have kind of liked him to do a montage of stuff that wasn't there. I know they drip feed it, but it's like every time he goes, oh, I could really go for a Coke. And then they just play off the line that it's like a Coke, like you
Yeah,
want Coke, like
Pepsi.
that's weird.
Yeah.
Pepsi, and then you're like, okay, but like I'm pretty sure, like I understand how the world is then, but
Mm.
what are all the people who worked at the Coca-Cola factory then doing? Like, when you think about it like that, like Coke's had
I
80
don't know.
years of history. Like, really, are those people all dead now, or are they doing something else when they wake up?
They must.
Wow.
They must be
Yeah,
either going to Pepsi factory
yeah, yeah.
or
I know. I
making.
was just thought of it.
Yeah.
I'm
In
like,
the,
okay, that's interesting. But no, I think it is a nice sort of little movie, and it's cute. And I think the problem with that is it's you sort of look at it and you go, yeah, good movie, it's fine, but
mm,
I feel like it's sort of rushed in that way. I think they could have made it a little bit tighter. I also thought it
yeah.
was really weird in that one bit where at the end, sort of when he's about to release, or he's releasing that album at that hotel in the UK, he's in his like
Mm.
green room and there's not a single person there. It was kind of awkward. I'm like, so does this character have no friends? But I know then they drip, like his mum and dad come in and they take the sandwiches, and then the girl he likes comes in with the other guy who was the producer and obviously her new boyfriend or whatever. It's like, does this guy not have any other friends that are coming to sit with him in his green room
Yeah.
before? Like, I kind of found it awkward. I was like, does no one like this person? Like, and then I
Yeah,
was trying to
apart
think
from
if,
Lily James, yeah.
yeah, I was just like, wouldn't you expect them to be there? Like, I know, I just those little things. I'm like, are you trying to say that this guy's not very well, like, just as a person, he's also not very like, because I have my friends in that green room, like, at least invite you for the free sandwiches. Uh,
Maybe they were busy on the day, or
yeah,
maybe it just shows that stardom, creates, an
no,
isolated life where you can't create those friendships. I don't know.
no, I think you've probably nailed it there, 100%. So, no, that was one that I watched. I also watched the old 21 Matt Blackjack movie over the weekend.
Great film. Great film.
Yeah, yeah. I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Again, I've always looked at it and I'm like, I don't want to watch it because of bloody Kevin Spacey, but I just watched it because I was like, okay, I haven't seen this yet. I kind of enjoyed it.
You haven't seen
And
it yet. Oh,
yeah,
you hadn't
that's what I
seen
mean.
it.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it. That was the first time I seen
Oh, I
it.
forgot about that. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, I'm glad you
yeah,
watched it then.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, so it's always one of those ones I think, and that's a very classic for us here in Australia because majority of you listening are from Australia anyway. But that's like a classic Channel 10 movie over like winter, and it's shown on like a after the main movie or something on like it's like an 8:30, 10, like 9:30 movie on like a Friday night. And I watched
Yeah.
snippets of it and I knew about it, but I never really watched the whole thing. No,
Mhm.
really good movie, interesting. Enjoyed it. That main
Yeah.
character's never gone on to anything ever again, really. That
No,
was his
based
sort
off a
of,
true story in
yeah,
some regards.
yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I thought it was interesting. Good watch. Sort of perfect Netflix movie that you scroll past every time when you're bored and you can't find something to watch. And then I'm like, why don't I watch this? So no,
Yeah.
I finally
Out of
watched
all
it.
the
So
stars in the film, I would have never guessed Josh Gad to come as the biggest celebrity
yeah,
out of that film 10 years later.
yeah, and he played
Good on him.
the smallest role out of that. Not
Yeah.
smallest, but he's in it for like a little bit, but obviously not a main character. So no,
Yeah.
no, I did enjoy that movie a little bit. It's on that sort of rewatchability factor that it's easy to go back on. So no, Mace, that's the end of episode 10, or as you call it, episode 9 of the podcast. Sorry for the joke.
Thanks, mate.
But no, everyone, where can everyone find you, Mason, on social
Yeah,
media?
so Jack_Mason22 on Twitter and Insta,
Yeah.
Screenblend.net. And Will, what are your links?
Will be cuts on all forms of social media. Again, if you want a topic for us to discuss, you can message us on all of our social media platforms or send us an email at screenblend2019@gmail.com. And follow us on the social media, interact with us again. Give us your thoughts on the movies we spoke about today. What do you think about
Yeah,
the
give 'em a
Snyder
watch.
Cut and how that's going to play out? I'm sure we'll be discussing that in breaking news over the next couple of weeks, months, and year whenever this gets released. How funny would it be if this then just like releases like 2024 and it keeps getting pushed back? Like it just like imagine then there's
Don't
more
jinx it.
yeah there's more studio meddling and then it's like they get someone else to come in and do it. That'd be too good. And we know that won't happen. But I was just
Fingers
thinking,
crossed.
you never know. Maybe it will. Again, Mace, thank you very much, and thank you to our listeners for listening and watching. Please stay safe over the next week, and we will see you again next week.
Yeah. Stay safe and have a good week, everyone. See
Yeah.
ya.
Bye bye.